over the hills and far away.
More heroics with Sharpe next Wednesday at 8.
What would the going rate be for a 14-month-old child?
Your finger is on a trigger.
Explosive new drama, Prime Suspect, coming soon on Central.
You told us you like comfortable non-applicator tampons, so we created Tampettes with a unique tapered shape for more comfort. You told us you like tampons that are easy to use, so we added a silky overwrap to make Tampettes easier to use. For great comfort and protection, we know you like Tampettes from Tampax.
Trouble with this town is everyone
wants to be in the movies.
It's pathetic.
Say, you want to be in the movies?
Me?
You've got just what I need. I love you, and I love you. All right, now it's time for the close-up. Bring in the real actresses.
Ah, give them the 106.
I'd rather die.
No!
If you have old tins of paint you want to get rid of, drop them in at Do It All. And for each one, we'll give £1 off each new tin of paint you buy.
We got the mountains, the rivers and trees, Mother Nature gives us the glory.
Hops, barley, yeast, water. That's it. Hops, barley, yeast, water. That's it. Just those. Just lager, delicious, full-flavored, authentic Holston pills. Just as nature. You shut up! I'm talking over here. Let me put it this way. I don't drink lager with a splash of additives. I don't drink lager with a preservative top. I don't drink lager and a stabilizer shandy. Why? Because I treat my body like a temple. That's why I leave the boots on the outside. What are you looking at?
The European Match Live is the second leg of the semi-final of the European Cup Winners' Cup. Sampdoria versus Arsenal. Can Arsenal become the first team to retain the Cup Winners' Cup?
And Arsenal are ahead!
They can take another step forwards in Italy.
It's gone in!
One more good result will put them into the final.
It's a wonderful goal for Arsenal!
The European Match Live, Thursday at 7:20 on Central.
We've national and international news from the studios of ITN in a few minutes, here on Central.
There now follows a party political broadcast by the Labour Party.
Take one typical man. How much worse off will he and his family be this year thanks to new Tory taxes? The answer is £800 worse off. What about these two typical women and their families? How much worse off will new Tory taxes make them? The same. £800 worse off. How about these four? £800 worse off. And it's £800 for Jeff and Alice, and Gordon and Sue, and Mina and John. It's £800 for these people, and these, and these, and all of these. Now, £800 is a lot of money, especially when you start counting people up and down the country. A lot of money. You lied to us, Mr. Major.
We will be able to make a series of reductions in direct taxation.
And you lied when you said this.
We will go on cutting taxes on what people earn.
And this.
We have no need and no plans to extend the scope of VAT.
We know better now. This month we're being hit by 2 brand new taxes. Higher tax for married couples and less tax relief on your mortgage. They're part of the 20 new taxes that the Tories have phased in. Income tax up, petrol up, new taxes on insurance, and the cruelest tax of all, VAT on heat and hot water. Yes, we know how the money's been taken, Mr. Major. What we'd like to know now is where's the money going? It isn't being spent on our children's education. Teachers are being sacked because of government cuts, and the Education Minister wants to close nursery schools to save cash. It isn't being spent on making our streets safer. Crime has doubled under the Tories, and the extra police they promised haven't materialised. What about the NHS? Is the money being spent on more hospitals, nurses and doctors? You don't have to be a brain surgeon to understand that the answer is no, no, and no. So you lied, Mr. Major, to all these people, and these, and these, and these, and these. You lied to these 6, to these 4, to these 2. You lied, Mr. Major, to each and every one of us. And we still don't know where the money's gone.
I'll tell you where the money's going. You're paying an extra £800 a year in taxes alone, not to build for the future or to invest in our services. Indeed, the Conservatives are closing hospitals while they're increasing taxes. You're paying that extra £800 to pay the bills of economic failure, of unemployment and waste. Now, I want a tax system that's fair. That's why we're so opposed to extending VAT on fuel. And indeed, the only tax cut you've seen over the last 2 years is a Labour tax cut, stopping VAT on fuel rising from 8 to 17.5%. And I want us to invest wisely in our frontline services. That's why it's so important to get people back to work, to cut the bills for Social Security, and to be able to invest in the things that matter, our caring services, nurses and teachers, instead of administrators and bureaucrats. So we want a government that's fair and invests wisely, and that's why people are turning to New Labour, for a government that can work with all of us, and for an end to Tory lies.
If you've had enough of this government, you can do something about it. Help Labour win, and telephone 0990 300 900. That's 0990 300 900. Or write to Labour Supporters, Free Post, 150 Walworth Road, London SE17 1BR.
That was a party political broadcast by the Labour Party.
It's 5 minutes past 10. This is Central. It's time for the news from ITN.
From ITN, News at 10 with Trevor McDonald.
Terrorism rocks Middle America. At least 19 die in Oklahoma. Another Japanese city is hit by a poison gas attack. Tributes for young constable killed in the line of duty. And how a British guerrilla is beating the Japanese at their own game. Good evening. A terrorist bomb in a government office block shattered Oklahoma City in America today and stunned the country. 19 people are confirmed dead, including 17 children. But the death toll could be far higher. Hundreds of people were wounded and many are still trapped. The disaster occurred in the normally peaceful heart of America. President Clinton was said to be very troubled. Oklahoma City is one of the smaller state capitals with a population of just over 400,000. The 9-story Alfred Murrah building in the city center houses several government agencies and a daycare center for employees' children. 500 people work there. The bomb probably went off at street level, perhaps in a car. It ripped off almost the entire north face of the building. The blast was heard 30 miles away. Our Washington correspondent Bill Neely reports.
It is a scene of devastation and uncertainty in a small city that has never before been touched by terrorism. Many are still trapped inside. Rescue efforts begin only to be stopped again for fear of further explosions.
It looks like it's a video from Beirut or something. You can see
it was just after 9 o'clock this morning when the explosion happened. It came without warning. Authorities say it was a bomb. At least 400 people were inside, beginning their working day. Some had just dropped their children off to a daycare center in the building. Around 30 children were there. At least 6 of them are dead.
And I heard this loud blast, and it sounded like a bomb or something, and then all of a sudden there was a lot of glass and materials flying into our building.
Tremendous blast came through the windows, blew us out of our chairs onto the floor, covered us with glass.
I'm so relieved, and I'm praying for all those other people.
So many cars caught fire so quickly that officials became suspicious. They are now saying a car bomb was left in front of the building, packed with up to 1,200 pounds of explosives.
Work on that. They've been going around finding evidence from as far away as several blocks that they've been able to put together. And it appears to definitely have been a car bomb, an ammonium nitrate type bomb. They found portions of that chemical scattered over several blocks away.
So many people were injured that local hospitals couldn't treat any more casualties. Dozens were injured by flying glass. So many bewildered, so many bereaved.
Because of this guy, I might have lost my 3-year-old daughter and my husband and my 4-year-old. So whoever did this, I hope you're happy.
In the minutes after the explosion, there was panic, but that only grew as news came through that a second explosive device had been found.
People were just getting out covered with blood and just stunned. I mean, it was just shock.
Get out!
Get them ready.
Oh my God, another bomb.
Firemen found a rocket launcher. There is no official confirmation yet that 2 more bombs, reported to be more powerful than the first, have been found.
And you can see where the car was, and so it was not, first thought it was in the parking garage, but apparently it was a car bomb on the street.
And how large of a crater did it blow?
About 8 foot deep in the street.
Dozens are still missing. Children, office workers, Secret Service agents. President Clinton is sending help. No one in government yet knows who is behind the attack.
And it is way too early at this point to draw any conclusions about what has happened in Oklahoma City. Clearly there's been a devastating explosion that's occurred at this federal building, that the cause of it is unknown. Those responsible are unknown at this point, and we'll have to develop that very carefully.
Here comes a little one being taken out right now, being delivered to a local hospital.
One nurse has said that as many as 17 children may have been killed. 2 babies, less than 1 year old, escaped unscathed. The overall death toll may run into dozens, but so many are missing, so many trapped, that it is, at the moment, just grim guesswork. But it is clear that whether this is the work of Americans or of a Middle Eastern group, this is the United States' worst ever terrorist attack. It came on a spring morning to a small city in Middle America. Investigators and the people of Oklahoma City are asking why today, and most of all, why here? Bill Neely, News at 10 in the United States.
So, who might have been responsible for the bomb attack in Oklahoma? As Bill Neely reported, there is no official word yet, but there are apparently 2 main suspects. Here's our diplomatic correspondent, Jeffrey Archer.
Live TV coverage of the bombing was interspersed by speculation as to who might have been responsible.
We have just received a call from someone saying that they are with the Nation of Islam, and they're claiming responsibility for it.
I'm moving
Nation of Islam, however, strongly denies involvement. It is a radical black group with no history of terrorism. The key to who did it may lie in the fact that the building bombed was a government one. The target was probably the US administration itself, and the attack may have been sponsored by an Islamic state like Iran.
So that wouldn't surprise me at all. The Iranians would be financing, at least indirectly, some American or Middle Eastern Muslim fundamentalist groups with a base in the United States, bearing a particular grudge against the American government.
The only previous experience America has of major Islamic terrorism was the car bomb at the World Trade Center in New York in 1993. 6 were killed then and over 1,000 injured. An Islamic group was found to be responsible for that. One other factor in today's bombing, however, is that it is exactly 2 years since the end of the Waco siege in Texas. Some 80 members of the heavily armed Branch Davidian religious sect died in a fire then when the FBI tried to storm their headquarters. The Bureau for Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, which was investigating the sect, had an office in the building bombed today. But tonight, a Middle Eastern connection to the Oklahoma City attack is thought the most likely one.
For the latest from Oklahoma City, we have just received this update from Dave Feeling of the American CBS network.
The search goes on now in the rubble for more survivors. We understand they are talking to some of them as they struggle to get through the debris to find the rest of the people who are still inside that building here behind us. Meanwhile, the FBI says they do have 3 suspects, 3 men who rented a brown pickup truck at the Dallas airport, and they are currently searching for them. That's the latest from here in Oklahoma City. I'm Dave Failing, CBS News. Back to you.
And we'll have more on that story as it develops later on News at 10. Urban terrorists struck in Japan too today with another poison gas attack on rail travelers. Nearly 400 needed hospital treatment, although no one was killed. The number 2 in the sinister Ohm Doomsday cult was later arrested. The gas released today wasn't sarin, but phosgene. It wasn't Tokyo attacked this time, but Japan's second city, Yokohama. Our Asia correspondent Caroline Kerr reports.
Once again, the Japanese underground has been attacked by poison gas. For the second time in a month, innocent commuters have been struck down as they made a routine journey to work after gas was released at a busy station. Hundreds were rushed to hospital, stretching Japanese medical facilities to the limit. Terrified passengers poured onto the streets, suffering from nausea and dizziness.
Certainly there's been some sort of a toxic chemical incident, maybe even more frightening, maybe a copycat. Maybe somebody else thinks it's a good idea and wants to try and do the same thing.
Almost immediately, specialist poison gas units were sent in with neutralizing chemicals, while police and firefighters in protective clothing scanned the station for traces of the poisonous chemical. The Japanese authorities treated this as a major security alert and mobilized thousands of emergency workers within hours of the attack. At the height of the pandemonium, many of those traveling were school children going home for lunch. Tonight, as thousands had to brave the subway system again to get home, the authorities confirmed that the gas released today was a World War II chemical called phosgene.
Police are certain that today's attack was a deliberate criminal act. For most ordinary Japanese people, it's the latest security fright to affect a nation already on the brink of hysteria. Caroline Kerr, News at 10, Tokyo.
Here, the murder of the probationer police constable Philip Walters in Ilford in Essex last night revived the argument about whether our police should be routinely armed. The Home Secretary, Michael Howard, said today most officers still didn't want that. He called the shooting very tragic. IDN's Colin Baker reports from Ilford.
The neighbours were screaming and shouting, so the police were sent for. A routine call for help, just one of many thousands answered by policemen in Britain every day. It wasn't, though, a family dispute. It was, it seems, a row between drugs dealers, and it cost a rookie policeman his life. 2 officers had tried to arrest 3 men leaving a house in Ilford. In the struggle, one man pulled a handgun and fired 3 times. One policeman was hit in the hand. Constable Philip Walters was fatally wounded in the chest.
The police officer who had been shot, he was lying on the floor in absolute agony. And by this time, a few other police officers had come. But he just looked in absolute pain. His hand was on his heart, and he didn't say much except crying, you know, in pain.
Constable Walters joined the police 19 months ago. He was the outstanding cadet of the year. A martial arts expert, he was once an air steward with British Midland. His station commander said that last year he'd been involved in the arrest of an armed robber.
It's a tragedy that on this occasion, again responding in the full knowledge of the dangers that face police officers every day, that he's paid the ultimate price.
On these occasions, I am humbled by their courage, by their bravery, and by the fact that despite this tragic incident, they will still be out there.
The number of crimes involving guns is rising all the time. In 1983, there were 2,000 incidents in Greater London where criminals used firearms. In Greater Manchester, there were 438, and in West Yorkshire, there were 421. A decade on, there were 3,500 in London, 888 in Greater Manchester, and 775 in West Yorkshire. Should policemen carry guns as a matter of routine? The Police Federation is presently balloting all its members.
They're going to be asked all those questions about what level of protection they've got and what level of protection they want, and that includes the firearms questions. And I think we're all going to look at that with very great interest, and that may direct us in the future of British policing.
This evening, Constable Walter's father and stepmother laid flowers on the curbside where he died. His mother laid a single yellow rose. Colin Baker, News at 10, Ilford.
The Labour leader Tony Blair launched his party's campaign for the local elections in England and Wales today under the slogan, "A fair deal with Labour." He said council tax was, on average, far lower under Labour authorities, a claim disputed by the other parties. Labour will field a record number of candidates this time, 1,600 more than the Conservatives. Still ahead on News at 10, a British computer firm that's the envy of Japan. Plus, MPs turn up the heat on British gas after a huge rise in complaints. Putting out the flags for the biggest celebration in 50 years. What's planned for VE weekend? And from ashes to paint and brushes, what they're saying about the pop stars' paintings.
I think it's a musician in the playroom.
Where are they now? Remember Tub Tubson? Once Hollywood's Mr. Big, he shot to stardom playing huge roles. There was his Titanic debut as the Iceberg. And who could forget his Oscar-winning performance playing a planet?
Put us all in the shade. Until, of course, that terrible business with the chat show.
Tub, isn't that low-calorie beer you're drinking?
Got a lot of body, just like yours truly.
Oh, they ripped him to shreds.
What people didn't realize in those days, it can help slimming or weight control only as part of a calorie-controlled diet.
The industry buried it.
Tubbs now works as a mold for dome beaters in Dawababi. Brought to you by Marston's Low C.
An easy-to-follow advertisement for your easy-to-use Delta card. A lot of people already use their Delta card to pay for groceries. Well, hey, great news. Delta is welcome at stacks more places. For example, pharmacies, stationers, and hairdressers. And that's not just a load of old nonsense. Visa's Delta to checks.
Brighten up the scene. B&Q, that's what I call relief. B&Q, you can do it when you B&Q it. When it's time for new. B&Q, we can fit it too. B&Q, you can do it when you B&Q it. Going to make it yours. B&Q, there's so many doors. B&Q, you can do it when you B&Q it.
Are you off somewhere?
Well, I thought while you were just in the catcher, I might as well
pop out.
Where to?
Going down to the post office. I want to check how much it costs to post a letter to Zanzibar.
To Zanzibar?
Zanzibar.
Who do you know in Zanzibar?
Got a pen pal.
Oh, yeah.
Have, yeah.
You want to play that National Lottery Instants game, that's what you want to do.
Well,
I don't mind, just say that's what you want to do.
The National Lottery Instant game?
Yes.
All right, then. If I win, can I keep the money?
Welcome back. Complaints about British Gas are all too common these days, and the company was warned today it will lose its government charter mark if it doesn't start giving a better service. It will be the first company to be so disgraced. Charter marks were the Prime Minister's idea. They've been called the Oscars of public service. Here's our political correspondent, Adrian Britton.
Not for the first time this year, British Gas finds itself in conflict with Westminster. The privatised utility receiving a public warning over standards from its former owner, the government. Customers blame job cuts for what they say is a service run by inexperienced and ill-tempered staff.
They really seemed for a moment to have lost sight of their commitment to their own customers and were almost putting profits before people.
This is the latest controversy to hit British Gas in recent months. Others, the £200,000 salary rise given to its chief executive, Cedric Brown. In January, customer complaints rose to their highest monthly total since privatisation in '86. And the following month, hundreds of customers were charged twice in a mix-up over discounts on their bills. Now, British Gas could become the first company to have their charter mark status withdrawn, an award from the Cabinet Office for exceptional public service.
We've agreed with them a programme of action as to what steps must be taken by them by the end of this year.
That action to provide more jobs, better staff training and more complaint hotlines.
People only work so hard. If you've got 3 times the demand, you have to reply. And getting trained people, getting experienced people behind each of those telephone calls to handle our customers took time. We're now there.
But tonight, Labour accused British Gas of being unbelievably smug about its commitment to public services and said its charter mark should be withdrawn straight away. Adrian Britton, News at 10, Westminster.
ITN learned tonight that the government is bowing to backbench pressure on war widows' pensions following its defeat on the issue in the House of Lords. Widows forfeit their service pensions if they remarry, but the Lords voted to restore their rights if they lose their second husbands. The Japanese computer games giant Nintendo paid millions today for a 25% stake in a Warwickshire firm called Rare. It also paid the compliment of calling it the Steven Spielberg of video games. Rare, which will take on about 170 new staff, invented the world's fastest-selling video game. ITN's Hal Jones reports.
Donkey Kong, king of the video jungle, beating the Japanese at their own game.
It's one of the best games I've played, because the graphics are awesome.
And it's better than all the other games I've played on.
Kong was made in Britain and makes money, £300 million so far. Nintendo have bought a share of Kong's British designers, the first time they've invested in software talent outside Japan. In a Warwickshire village is the old farmhouse where the new millionaires of video games are based, the headquarters of Rare Limited. Nintendo is buying British expertise, money for computer modelling on an industrial scale.
Britain is a world leader in this industry. I think we just need to try and maintain that.
It's a simple investment. Nintendo is putting more money in to move more product on the shelves.
Nintendo want more. They also know if they don't buy Rare, there is all these predators taking part in this very bullish butch market just now, where each big company, Time Warner, Sony, Sega, Nintendo, Virgin, they want bigger and better toys.
And prospects for investment in this sector of the toy market seem to be improving in leaps and bounds.
Another teaching union voted today to ballot its members on industrial action over class sizes. But unlike the NUT yesterday, the National Association of Schoolmasters and Union of Women Teachers said it would only strike as a last resort. It's thinking in terms of sending children from oversized classes home or to school libraries. About 600 workers at the Rolls Royce factory at East Kilbride near Glasgow walked out on strike today. They're protesting at job losses when the company transfers design work to its plant in Derby. And Luis Nosti, the master of the Spanish trawler, was fined £34,000 by Plymouth magistrates today for breaching European fishing regulations. His boat, Chambote, which was escorted to Plymouth last Friday, will stay there until the fine is paid. Just over 2 weeks from now, we'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of VE Day, the end of the war in Europe. Spread over 3 days, the Saturday, Sunday and Monday, May the 8th itself, it will be the biggest public celebration since the war. Everyone will be encouraged to join in. Events are taking place across the nation. Norman Rees has our special report on the official VE Day plans.
They're putting new shoes on the horses of the household cavalry, tuning up the polished brass of at least 7 military bands, firing up the Spitfires, rolling out the country's only airworthy Lancaster bomber, and getting ready, of course, to wave the flag. And it's all to celebrate this, the ending of the war in Europe 50 years ago.
Today is Victory in Europe Day.
The anniversary celebrations will be taking place all over Britain, but the biggest party of them all will be here in London's Hyde Park. Hosted by royalty, attended by more than 1 million people. And that's going to take the construction of something rather special. It will be the largest outdoor stage the world has ever seen.
One stage has got a choir of about 3,000, plus a full symphony orchestra, plus 200 or 300 dancers, plus all sorts of things. It's all nicely understated. And in front of it there's an arena which can take over 100,000 people, and then seated stands for 10,000, and a modest drawer box for 500, of which 150 get armchairs.
The Blues and Royals are already holding dress rehearsals. The celebrations bring together 2,000 musicians and bands from all 3 services. Everything, including concerts with Vera Lynn, Harry Seacombe and Cliff Richard, will be free.
We're not just celebrating the end of the war, we're actually celebrating 50 years of peace. Of course, everyone today must be aware of the fact that the sacrifices that the men and women fought for and died for gave us our lifestyle today.
Inevitably, there is a commercial side to the commemorations with a whole range of merchandise bearing the official VE Day logo. But for each item sold, a royalty will go to veterans' charities. And it's boom time for the flag makers. They say they could be selling up to 1 million Union Jacks.
This is absolutely enormous. The Post brings in huge orders every day. It's going to get bigger and bigger as the weeks tick by to May the 8th.
It'll be a special weekend for the RAF's Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. They'll join the Red Arrows for a fly-past over Buckingham Palace.
This will be special when we're actually doing the fly-past along the Mall and seeing the thousands, or maybe millions of people there, especially for somebody like me who was there on his dad's shoulders 50 years ago. It'll be special.
The commemorations will combine the old and the new. They'll emphasise the coming together of Europe and the benefits gained through peace by succeeding generations. But above all, it's another opportunity to give thanks to the veterans, to the men, the women and the machines that won the victory. Norman Rees, News at 10 at RAF Coningsby.
ITV will have comprehensive coverage of the VE weekend events, and on VE Day itself, Monday, May the 8th, David Frost and Michael Astle will be hosting a whole evening of victory celebrations on ITV. The snooker star Jimmy White tonight emerged from an inquiry into alleged match rigging to say he'd been cleared. His World Championship match with Peter Francisco is being investigated after unusual betting patterns on the outcome. White said the inquiry had cost him a full day's practice. And Labour today called for the Rugby League Super League proposals to be investigated by the Monopolies and Mergers Commission. The Shadow Trade Secretary Jack Cunningham said Rupert Murdoch's plans would result in a super monopoly. Tonight's main headline, at least 19 people, including 17 children, have been killed in a bomb attack on a government building in Oklahoma. Hundreds of others have been injured. One local report said the death toll was 78. It's the worst terrorist outrage in recent American history. The blast tore off the entire front of the 9-story building. Rescue workers are still searching for more survivors. There's no official word on suspects so far, but it's thought it could be the work of Middle Eastern terrorists. And finally, he's done all right as a rock star, but how good is David Bowie with a paintbrush? His first exhibition opened in London today, and Joan Thurkettle was among those who went to see it.
From Iggy Pop to Afro-Pagan, David Bowie's work is nothing if not versatile. He's been painting and sculpting since the mid-70s. It is, he says, as important to his life as music.
Would you give up music for art?
No, but neither would I give up art for music. I am really fortunate in having both the time and the inclination and possibly the talent to work in both mediums.
The exhibition is sited in the heart of London's art world, wide open to the screen.